You're listening to the Savoir Faire Audio Experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire Experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Savoir Faire Audio Experience. Thank you guys for sharing, caring, listening, all the love. Definitely appreciate the listenership and some of the feedback we're getting from people. We have another great interview for you today. Super excited about this. This is an author that we're going to speak with today. Eulene Greenland is here. Hello, Eulene.
Hi there. How are you?
Lovely. Happy Tuesday. Good morning to you. I'm glad we were able to connect and talk a little bit. Eulene has a very cool book out called The Center Brained, and it's a very interesting topic because it's not something I've ever heard of before, but I'm excited to learn about it, and we're going to learn from an expert that wrote about it, so I'm excited about that. I want to dive into your background a little bit, Eulene, if you don't mind. Can you take us down a little bit of a rabbit hole here and just tell us a little bit of your backstory and what kind of led you to start kind of writing in general, not just this book, but just writing in general?
Interesting that you asked, because there is a section in the book called The Backstory when I go into my background. But I'm really originally from Jamaica. I'm a Jamaican. And I've always loved to write. Writing is in my blood. So I've written, so many short stories and just related my experiences. I have them all stacked up. But my first foray into formal writing was a book I titled Thoughts and Tales That Inspire, because I am a Christian and I know that there are persons who go through difficult times. So that book, I said, was intended for the person who is having a difficult time and wants to know, wants to find a way out. There are thoughts there that will inspire them. There are persons who are, pretty fine, but want to go up to a higher level. That's also for them as well. So that book is also on the market, Thoughts and Tales That Inspire. However, this particular book, I've always known that there was something different about me, all right? I have never been able to identify naturally, like other people do, my right and my left. I can't do it. I have to think. I get lost very easily, and so on. But what I noticed over the years is that there are several people like me, and I'm usually able to pick up on that very quickly when I'm in somebody's presence. For example, if you say to somebody, it's on your right, and there's a bit of hesitation, or it might be a lot of hesitation, then I'm able to say to that person, you don't know your right or your left, do you? And no, usually they admit it. I also observe it in the general public. I lived in New York for a number of years. It took me a while to understand this, but there are persons who will not travel on the train. They use a bus because they want to see where they're going. There are persons who, even if they travel on the train, they use a particular coach. They will not go into another coach because when they come up from the subway, they have to see buildings that are familiar. There are so many clues I used to realize that this was in fact a phenomenon. Then I started doing research online, and there's a whole community online of people who are just like me. Their experiences are exactly similar to mine. So I use their experiences a lot in the book because I talk to a lot of them. And the interesting thing is, you said you have never heard of it. I had such a difficult time with my husband because I kept telling him, I don't know how to identify left and right. And he was saying, oh, you're an intelligent woman. You should be able to do that. And, he was very impatient with me. But as I began to research and to write and to find other persons, and he was able to speak with them, he had to admit, yes, there is something to that. And so, when I've introduced the book to other people who didn't know, when they have read it, they have said, "Oh, so that's why so and so acts that way." That's, so a light bulb is coming on, and I'm hoping that's my real reason for writing the book, that those who do not know of the existence of this, let's call it a condition or state, will know that there are actually people like that. We're fully intelligent, we are all there, but we can't identify left and right, east and west, north and south.
Interesting. What is this? What is that condition like medically called? Is it spatial? Did I see this somewhere? It's called spatial disorientation.
Yes, spatial disorientation, geographic dyslexia. There are so many terms that are used to describe I call it directionally challenged. So that's my term. And I in the book, I go into various, theories as to why it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I'm center-brained. People talk about somebody being left-brained. If you're left-brained, then you tend to be right-handed. If you're right-brained, you tend to be left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
I am center-brained. I'm neither left-handed or right-handed. So that's my little theory.
Interesting. Does it make you ambidextrous? Is that the right word for being able to use both hands?
No. Interestingly, you're not ambidextrous, because an ambidextrous person is a person who is able to equally use your left and your right to do anything. In my case, I do certain things with my left hand. I cannot do them with my right, and vice versa.
Okay.
So it's not really ambidextrous.
Very interesting. So the book is called Center Brained. I like this little part that's part of this book. It says why you can't tell left from right, east from west, or north from south. So the directional aspect of this is kind of interesting. So this is kind of something that you think it has brain activity attached to it, correct? Like that hesitation, like now that I'm thinking out loud, I'm like, I've been in New York City too. I definitely am one of those people that has to pull out my phone and kind of use Google Maps to make my way around the city sometimes, because I get completely lost between like going forward and backwards sometimes. And I have used the subway and came up from the subway in New York City and be like completely like, okay, I don't know where I am. So then you bust out Google Maps to figure out, okay, which block do I need to walk down to get to where I'm going? So I don't know if I have what you are discussing, but it's very possible. I'm not very good. I'm good with direction in the idea that like if I need to go someplace, I can get there. I think I'm pretty quick with like left and rights, but like now I'm starting to just analyze my on foot traveling process in New York City, and like that's a complicated process for me because the city's really laid out in a smooth way, right? And here I am still having to utilize my maps to figure out where I'm going. So maybe there's other people that are kind of tapping into that for themselves too. Take me down the scientific piece of this a little bit. So now we've kind of analyzed that this is something that you may have. You wrote a book about this, but like do the deep dive. Talk to me about what doctors and educators say about this particular thing.
Okay. Just before I go into that, I just want to respond to what you said a while ago, because the doctors and the scientists have in fact determined that a normally oriented person can become confused like after coming out of the subway. So I'm going to say that just because that happens to you, you are not necessarily directionally challenged, because it does happen to almost anybody who has been under, under the subway for some time, and then you come up. When it happens to you every single time, when it happens to you, even if you have not come out of a subway, you just venture out onto the street and you can't find your way, then that's when there's a problem. So I did do a bit of research on this. And what I found is that the hippocampus of the brain, because the hippocampus is in the middle, and it does interact and facilitate communication between both hemispheres. So let me say first up that there's not enough research about this. This is a totally new area, and I have been speaking with some medical persons, and they're telling me that the real field that should be delving into this is neuroscience. All right, so I need to get a neuroscientist to really do this. But yeah, I did consult with behavioral therapists, psychologists, even medical doctors on this when I wrote. And like I said, there is not enough real scientific information. So I had to really dig around to find what the scientists are saying. But they're saying that there is a spectrum along which all human beings behave. And so there will be just a touch of it in some people, and there'll be a lot of it in some people, but it is just the way that the human being relates. And therefore, I do not believe that I am disabled in any form or shape, or that people who cannot find their way have a disability, but we're certainly different. And what I do find is that if you are directionally challenged, you tend to overcompensate in some other areas. So you're exceptionally quick thinking. You will be good at other areas just to sort of make up. All right. So yes, the scientists do believe that there can be some aspect of this, right? I spoke to a psychologist, Dr. Sincere, and he was mentioning that this could be called, well, based on what he said, I call it disorientation. He says it's spatially or geographically dyslexic, but I do have a problem with that because dyslexia is another ball game altogether. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying that there is a broad way for the scientists to really get onto this platform and really study what happens to the person who is directionally challenged, because there's a wide cross-section of people who display just a little, maybe more, or a great deal of this tendency. So it's wide open. And what I found was that there were even persons who have studied this thing, have found that there are a few not a few, there are many, but some of them have not been discovered yet, but there are coping mechanisms that can be used. So we just have to do the research. It's there.
So I was curious to see if humans are naturally good at directions, right? So I just put this into Google, and I wanted to learn more about our topic that we're talking about. And it came up with a pretty interesting response that basically just said that, like, most humans do have really good sense of direction. And we basically rely on visual landmarks and estimations based on movement, right? So we kind of have an internal clock that kind of counts how many steps it takes to get to the grocery store potentially, right? So naturally we can just walk 100 steps and we're at the store, which is kind of unique, right? But those are things that you're doing like on a consistent basis. So when you get to a new place, are you able to figure out east and west, north and south, those kind of basic things? And this is breaking that down into saying that it's biological, it's environmental factors. There's a lot of things that kind of get involved. But one piece that I was going to ask you about that kind of jumps off the page to me a little bit is that research suggests that humans have brain cells, including head direction cells, that help maintain a sense of direction. Have you heard about this part of it? Like, can we get into a little bit of the science study that you've learned on your own?
Yes, definitely. And it doesn't have anything to do with quote unquote civilization. It will be an innate thing. So there are persons who will naturally be like that. Fortunately or unfortunately, or just interestingly, there will be persons who do not have that ability at all. So I'm not even sure if it's a human thing or is this just a creature thing where because they're human beings who just cannot find their way. And what has been found is that say somebody who cannot find his or her way, there are scientific there can be scientific explanations. For example, one of my problems is I get lost in familiar places. It's not just that I get lost in strange places. I can get lost just coming home from work. Or I work from home now, but I could. And I was so just totally confused about that until I realized that there is an explanation for that, and so it was a friend who well, there are two conditions. There's one that is known as developmental topographical disorientation, and I do not have this so much, but this is the inability of a person to build up a memory bank. You just talked about going to the store and knowing that it's just 100 steps. So when you do the 100 steps, you're supposed to be there. But there are persons who cannot retain that memory. So every time they go to the store, it's a new experience because they can't. They have what is known as, they have no mental mapping, no visual memory that builds up inside. And there are people like that. Every day, it's like a new discovery to them because the same route they take every day, they're new stuff. Now, I say I am not affected by that so much, but I can be driving along a route I have traveled very often, and suddenly I see a building. And my mind says, but this building was not there before. And I don't know whether or not I have ignored it all this time or it hit my blind spot or what, but I'm seeing that building for the first time. Or I saw it and I just do not remember, because that is what not having a mental map means. But normally I'm not too affected by that. Now, my problem is what is known as visual orientation illusion. I didn't know that was what was bothering me, because I'll be driving and then suddenly the whole place looks new. It looks totally strange. And I'm saying, where am I? Why did I may have overshot my exit or something, because the whole place looks new. And in the group one of the groups that, because there are support groups for these, for directionally challenged people. And I was explaining my situation, and this gentleman, and I have to mention his name. His name is Hugh Smith, I think. He was the one who opened my understanding to what is happening with me. I was suffering from, I do have it badly, visual reorientation illusion, where the whole place turns around. That's the best way I can explain it. For example, east becomes west, south becomes north, and that's hence my title too, because you're looking at the same place but seeing it through different eyes, and so it becomes strange, and people can actually get lost. People will walk into a wooded area, and the path that they took is right there, but suddenly they can't see it, and so they're going further and further into the woods, that sort of thing. So that explained a lot why I get lost in the city, because everywhere looks the same to me. I can't remember where I what direction I took, because direction is totally foreign to me. And I have arguments with people about east and west, because it seems to me like when I'm in this place, the sun rises over there, and when I'm in another place, it rises in the opposite direction, So I've always had these discussions ever since I was small. So, but I now know that it is because I have visual reorientation illusion, where the directions change for me, and there are other people like me as well.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad that you kind of deep dived into this to learn this for yourself, but I'm really excited about the idea that you wrote a book about this. So I want to dive into the author piece of this too.
Hmm.
What was the trigger for you that decided you wanted to write a book? I mean, you've always been a writer, so was it kind of natural that you were going to write about this topic, or was there something else that kind of
Yes.
happened where you were like, other people just need to know. Now that I know, I want to tell other people. So talk to me about writing the
Yes.
book about the topic.
So I have always um, wanted to tell people because, like I said, the person I interact with most is my husband, and he has always not believed me when I said I don't know my left from my right. He always said, like I was pretending or something like that. He just did not believe me. So I always knew that I had to validate myself. And then as I started, meeting other persons, and like I said, there's just this sixth sense that as soon as I'm speaking with a person, interacting with a person, just seeing the way they perform tasks and so on, I can usually say to them, you don't know your right hand or your left hand, from your left hand, do you? And usually they admit it. And then I began to realize that there was, in fact, a wide community like that. Then um, it was when I was researching for the book, because by then I decided I was going to write it. And the publishers had a lot to do with it too, because I I was introduced to the publishers and they told me that they could help me to write this book. And so I knew right away what I was going to write, the title, everything just came to me. Then as I was researching, I met so many other people who are like me. The gentleman I told you about, his name is actually Hugh Reed, and he is way ahead in this. There's so many people who have this issue, and I'm just surprised that nobody has ever written about it from my perspective. Um, Psychologists and so on have mentioned something about getting lost, people who get lost, but I thought I wanted to write it from the perspective of the person who is experiencing it, not an expert. And so, well, I'm an expert because I say I have over 60 years of experience as a directionally challenged person. So I know the ins and outs of being directionally challenged. I get lost so easily,
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to just let the world know that we're not stupid. That's what the first chapter is titled. We're not stupid because somebody is driving along in traffic. It happens a lot. They indicate right and they turn left, and you say, "Oh, that stupid person." There is something going on there. So
Yeah.
I just wanted the rest of the world to know that.
Yeah, I agree, and I've seen that before. So hopefully people will see it in a different light, knowing that this is something a little bit
Hmm.
deeper, right? There's a medical reason
Oh
why this
yeah.
is happening. So I want to encourage people to go check out the book. It's available on Amazon. You can look up Center Brained. The author name on this book is Eulene Greenland, but she uses her middle initial or middle name on the author credits. So look up
Mhm.
Patsy Greenland on Amazon, and you'll find her books. But Center Brained is a very unique one. It's very interesting. I definitely want to dive into this topic again for myself,
Mhm.
do some research, and see if I have any of these symptoms potentially, and maybe other people can too. But I think the book is a great guide for kind of understanding the
Mhm.
situations and then trying to figure out if it's something that you may or may not be kind of dealing with.
Right. And I just don't want people to read the book, but I want a change, right? Like my husband has changed so much. He's so much more tolerant now that he understands that I'm not making the stuff up. I'm really like that, And so I want the light bulb. There's this gentleman who told me, you may have saved my marriage because I just was wondering what was wrong with my wife. No, I understand. Another lady said, no, I know that my mom is directionally challenged. That's why she would do these things that she's been doing. So I just want the light bulb to go on in the minds of those who do not understand us. And I want people who are directionally challenged to come from behind that shadow because people who are directionally challenged tend to be very creative. Why were you late for the interview? Oh, there was a big accident and the road was blocked for hours. The fact is, you were going up and down lanes just trying to find the place, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to be very creative in trying to explain away this thing. I want us to just admit, yes, I am directionally challenged and I need a little bit more allowance.
Well, I appreciate your time today, Eulene. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about the book. Definitely we'll tag the link to the Amazon book in our bio, and you can look up Eulene on a couple other platforms as well. But thanks again for your time. I really appreciate the topic and having a discussion about this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.